How's it going, guys? I'm Tyler and welcome to today's video. My subscribers fall into probably three different categories. The first category are people that are already involved in some sort of agribusiness. The second category is people that want to start their own ag-related business. And the third category is people that are just curious about where their food comes from. So I thought a good topic for a video would be to talk about the different sectors of the beef industry. That way, the newcomers know where they fit in the best. The old timers might get an idea of something they want to branch out into, and people that are curious about their food get a better idea of the big picture of the beef industry and how that steak made it from this field to your plate. That's what we're talking about today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. First segment of the beef industry we're going to talk about are seed stock producers. Now their primary objective is producing mainly genetics, but they're also producing animals that have repeatable and predictable traits. As I thumb through this brochure from Lambert Herefords, you can see the multitude of data they have available on these animals. This is actually a bull that I used last year. His calves are going to be hitting the ground here any day. So some traits that people mostly look at would be birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight. You got an udder and a teat score, ribeye area, marbling. Pretty much anything you would want to know about these bulls, they can tell you. Purebred producers are definitely going to be charging a premium for their product because a lot more work goes into raising these calves than just commercial calves like what I raise. For example, when I was in college, I worked on the school farm and they ran purebred Black Angus and Red Angus. And during calving season, when a calf is born, you would have to go out there, record the calf's birth date, take a weight, and you had to record who the sire was. So these were the three main things that you had to get. Now, the reason why it was so important to get a birth weight is because that data is used to compile all of these numbers on that specific bull. So after you do this for a few generations, your numbers start to get really accurate, and then his son's numbers are really accurate, and just the more information that's brought together that's used to come up with these EPD numbers, the more accurate they become. So honestly, being a purebred producer is probably not a great fit for a smaller guy, because if people are going to be putting out big bucks for bulls, they want a reputable breeder, and the only way to become a reputable breeder is to get a lot of bulls out there that people like. But there is kind of a niche market that you can chase, and that's what I think I would probably consider if I was a smaller producer, and that is to produce fair steers or show cattle. So this is a lot like seed stock producers because you're doing mostly purebreds, maybe some specialized crosses depending on your fare, your mark, however the kids want them. But you can still charge that premium for the purebred animal. The kids will value that and pay for it, as opposed to trying to, if you're only raising like 2 good purebred bulls in a year, you're gonna have a really tough time finding producers that will buy them and spend the big money on it. So after seed stock producers, the next people we need to talk about are the cow-calf producers, like myself. So a little bit off topic, or well, maybe it's really on topic if we're talking about cow-calf producers. I just wanted to show you guys, I've got my first confirmed bag. Doesn't really come across on camera too well, but look how much she's sticking out on the sides. So that cow's getting close. So the next segment we're going to talk about is the cow-calf industry. Now that is probably what most people are in and what most people strive to be when they think about getting into the cattle industry. So let's talk about what it is. So cow-calf industry is pretty self-explanatory. It's somebody that has a herd of cows, breeds them, and makes calves. So it's only different from seed stock producers in that you're not really making purebred animals, you're just making calves that are designed to go to market. In the cow-calf industry, you are producing beef. You're not producing animals that are meant for breeding stock. You're really only producing animals that are meant to be eaten. Now, there's probably exceptions to this. I mean, I'm sure not every heifer that I've taken to the market has ended up in the feedlot, but I would bet that the vast majority of them have. So a cow-calf producer usually ends up keeping their calves till they're about 600 pounds, maybe a little more, a little less. About the size of these guys, or a little bit smaller. And when the cow-calf producer sells his calves, they will go to a stalker producer. So the next type of producer I want to talk about would be the stalker producer. Now, this is a segment of the industry that I'm not sure that most people know about, but there actually is an entire segment dedicated to this. Now, what a stalker producer is somebody that goes and buys a 400 to 500 pound calf, takes them back to their ranch, grazes them on seasonal grazing ground for 3 to 4 months, whatever your grazing season is, and then sells them again at the end of that time when they weigh around 800 to 900 pounds. Now, being a stalker producer is really great in some ways, and it's not so great in other ways. The good things about it are that there is a relatively fast return on your investment. So if you buy calves in, say, March, then you feed them March, April, May, June, say May or June, 3-4 months later, you get that return back on your money. Good candidates for stalker producers are people that have seasonal grass that they need to graze down, or people that don't want to make the long-term investment in cow-calf pairs. Other good things include the fact that you don't have to house cattle all year long. You actually get an off season. And really, your growing season is relatively short. So as far as labor goes, it's not nearly as much as, say, a seed stock producer or even just a regular cow-calf producer. Now, the bad things about being a seed stock producer, I'd say the worst thing about it is really risky because you're playing the market. Now, if everything is stable and the market stays pretty good, you can do all right. So I pulled this market report from a couple months ago to kind of show you guys what you would look at if you were going to start your own stalker operation. So we could buy 500-pound steers for $1.75 a pound, and then we could raise them up to 900 pounds, at which point they would go for $1.25. This brings a net gain to $250 a head. So in that scenario, you would have made $250 a head, which isn't bad considering the amount of labor and investment that you have in them. Now, if you can do that with 10 calves and make $2,500, that's cool. If you can do it with 100 calves and make $25,000, that's even better. But that all assumes that the market is stable and, you know, things don't go down. The other way to look at that is the market could go way up and you could make a lot more money. But this just really illustrates the amount of risk that you take on when you're doing stalker calves. Man, I really did not want to shoot this whole video in the shop, and I guess the whole video is not in the shop, but the weather is bad and the wind is just terrible on this microphone. So I'm not going to get too in depth into the last few segments of the industry because I think they're probably out of reach for most of the people that will watch this video. But after a calf leaves a stalker operation, they would go to a feedlot. Now, to run a feedlot is a huge financial investment and you really got to know what you're doing. So like I say, probably most of the people, let's put it this way, if you're really considering starting a feedlot, you don't need to watch my YouTube channel to know how to do it. You already probably know how to do it, or you should know how to do it. But at the feedlot, the calves will go from about 900 pounds up to around 1350, somewhere in there, and then they are ready for the next segment of the industry, which is the packer. Basically, the person that harvests the animal, well, I shouldn't say person, the company that harvests the animal, packages them, and sends them off to the last segment of the industry, which is the retailer. Now, I think you guys all know what a retailer is. And again, if you're thinking about starting a grocery store, probably not watching this video. So I don't think there's really any point in getting into that too much. So to kind of recap, just kind of to follow the animal through its life, it would start as, we'll say, genetics from a seed stock producer and move from there to realize those genetics with a cow-calf producer. After the cow-calf producer raises the animal to around 600 pounds, maybe 500 pounds, just depending on the scenario. They would move to a stocker producer. He's gonna own the animals for a fairly short amount of time, but just take them from 500 pounds to around 900 pounds. At that point, the feedlot will finish them to about $13.50, packer, retailer, and that's how it's done. So a lot of people, I've seen people actually comment this on channels saying, why would you sell your calves for $1.50 a pound when I have to go and pay $8 a pound at the grocery store? We got to think about how many steps the animal had to go through to get to the grocery store. And each person and each step has to make money, or else the whole chain falls apart. And then all of a sudden there's no beef in the grocery store. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, found it informative. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch. Maybe we'll actually be able to get outside next time.